Ryerson, what are you in for this time? Disrupting class? Stink bombing the teacher's lounge? Were you whistling suggestively at the boys' wrestling team again?
No. Well, yes, but that's not why I'm here.
I hope that with my brand of videos, you're never quite sure what I'll talk about next, because I don't always plan these things out myself. Sometimes I'll just stumble on something I like to the point I have to share it with anyone who will hear me out. And today, I'm talking about Disney's Pepper Ann, which as of this upload came out 25 years ago. Hitting the airwaves on September 13th, it was actually planned to premiere on September 6th alongside Disney's Saturday morning block called One Saturday Morning, but everything was pushed back a week due to the worldwide coverage of the funeral for Princess Diana, one of the biggest events in TV history. It makes sense to me. The show centers around 12-year-old Pepper Ann, a red-headed beanpole with a wild imagination making her way through life and the misadventures and challenges that come her way, alongside her friends and family. Created by Sue Rose, it was the Mouse House's first animated show done by a woman, though it did start life at Nickelodeon before someone said, "We don't want this anymore," so props to Disney for giving it a shot. I usually have some background knowledge of a show before watching it, but for Pepper Ann, I didn't know jack going in. To bring up One Saturday Morning again, that aired on ABC, and unlike the WB, I got that channel just fine, but I was just a toddler when that block was in its prime. I did watch its successor, ABC Kids, a lot, right up to the point it became a rerun farm and died a slow, painful death, like all good Saturday morning blocks. On Canadian channels, Pepper Ann was on Family, which, as I've said before, was our Disney equivalent for years, and seeing the theme song again brought up vague memories of PA's Amazon alter ego. Aside from that, people mention it sporadically online, usually referring to In Support Of, aka the puberty episode. And they always bring up that bit where PA's mom says, "Peppy, you want breasts?" And she's talking about chicken breasts, but that's pretty much all I remembered. And that rang true for the general internet. It wasn't talked about as much as its contemporaries, and like for 65 episodes, its Wikipedia page is pathetically bare bones. Not helping matters was the fact it had no home video release of any kind, and whatever made its way online were recordings off Toon Disney or some American Greek channel? From what I've read, over 20 episodes of the show were basically lost media prior to 2016. For those of you who follow me on Twitter, like you ought to, you may have seen my Pepper Ann chronicles during my first watch of the show. It started September 8th, 2021, when the series dropped on Disney+, and I saw a few friends go nuts at this revelation, and that was enough for me to give it a look. After watching the first episode, I recall liking the character designs, helmed by the guy who made Codename Kids Next Door, by the way, but felt it was a bit slow. Though that's nothing new with TV shows, so I stuck to it. One week in, it was growing on me, and by season 2, I was hooked. Pretty soon, I was watching an episode a day, sometimes more, but it dawned on me that if I rushed through this show, I'd have less days to look forward to watching a new Pepper Ann. Well, new to me at least. And when it was all over, I realized I had a new favorite show. Going into season 1, it plants the seeds for what's to come, but it's certainly not bad. For a show with 5 seasons, you'd hope it would only get better from there, and this season still has its own charm. For one, it's the only season that was done on cells. For shows being made in the late 90s, early 2000s, it's always cool seeing how and when they transition to the current standard, and this show did it pretty quick. I feel like they could have done one more season on cells, but that just makes this batch stand out more. There's a vibe here that the other seasons don't have, a real cozy, homegrown feel. I didn't grow up with Pepper Ann, but watching this season made me feel like I did, if that makes sense. However, it's in a PAL format on Disney+, not NTSC, so everything's at a slightly higher pitch and speed, but I did get used to it. And now whenever I hear the theme song, I get confused on which pitch to follow, sometimes I switch partway in the song. Yeah, it's a little confusing. I didn't notice it too much with the voices in the show, with the big outlier being Pepper Ann. When I heard her voice unfiltered, it almost threw me for a loop, but no shade to her, I can't get enough of that voice.
I think your hat may be on a little too tight, Milo Co-Amigo. Listen, sweet cakes, if you knew your dad half as well as you know the PIN number on his bank card, then I might actually take your opinion seriously.
And that gives me a good enough excuse to talk about some of the cast, so I'm taking it. The show mainly centers on Pepper Ann and her friends Nikki and Milo, and they make for one of the best trio of friends I've ever seen. They've got a relationship I describe as 100% genuine, helping each other out, getting on each other's nerves, all the stuff you want to see from a close-knit clique. And it's just as fun seeing them fly solo too. Pepper Ann herself is an anomaly. Something about her you won't find anywhere else if the theme song didn't clue you in. She can be insecure or follow trends to look cool, and other times she's a ray of confidence and totally independent. She gets embarrassed by her mom, but her mom's also one of her best friends. And while a good kid at heart, she's got her moments of being a real jerk, but karma always kicks in before too long. She's gotten on everyone's nerves at least once, and when people see her coming, even if she hasn't done anything yet, they're all, "Oh great, what's going on in her head this week?" She is a hot mess, and that is why I love her. If we're talking favorites though, Nikki might just be it for me. I love characters who seem perfect and above it all, but underneath are barely keeping it together and just snap when things aren't going right. Nikki doesn't take crap from anyone, and her freakouts are always a treat. Her voice actor knocks it out of the park every time.
Isn't it odd that people are willing to shell out big bucks for a bag of beans, but no one will donate the price of a cup of coffee to adopt a starving dolphin in the mid-Atlantic? I'm fine.
But who would I be if I didn't bring up Milo? I wish I had a friend like him when I was in middle school, but without tooting my own horn, I feel like I was a Milo to somebody back then. And to mention his voice actor, everyone goes on about Danny Cooksey as Jack Spicer, Montana Max, Dave the Barbarian, Stoop Kid even, but no one brings up Milo, and that needs to change.
Art is not a fifth period class.
PA, can I have that radio for a sec?
Art is life!
Each one of them have their own wants, needs, strengths, flaws, irrational fears. They feel like real people, and that goes for the rest of the cast too. A lot of Pepper Ann's classmates and teachers start off one note, but they get enough going on to get you to remember them. Certainly more than any wiki can tell you. There's Trinket, the obvious popular rich girl, but she's a decent person, and even if she's not too cool with Pepper Ann, after watching the show you'll go, no, I get it, she is a bit of a nut job. And then there's Dieter. Oh, Dieter. I thought he was just gonna be big foreign kid who likes to eat food, but he somehow became one of the show's breakout characters. He might seem unassuming, but he's really a saucy little man who tends to stir the pot for his own amusement. Typically, when he shows up, something's about to go down. Then there's Pepper Ann's family, who are all great too. Her little sister Moose is one of the chillest, most level-headed little sister characters you'll ever see. To the point Pepper Ann's basically the little sister. And her mom Lydia is pitch perfect. I know people who are exactly like Lydia in real life, like it's scary. She's kind of like Nikki minus the chaotic outbursts, but still, you don't want to toy with her. She's voiced by April Winchell. But I want to give some props to Pepper Ann's dad, who's first mentioned in season 1's Thanksgiving episode. It's here we learn Pepper Ann's parents are divorced, and this year she wants her dad to come over for the holiday, rather than just call on the phone. I thought I had this thing pegged. He was the dad who says he's going to do stuff with his kids, but never does. Milo's parents are divorced too, and he tells Pepper Ann, you know, some parents just move on and get new lives. I thought the message would be, screw your dad, you don't need him. But it made me much happier to see he actually has a great relationship with his girls, even if he's not always around. It's a perspective I don't see too much. And after this episode, he makes more appearances, and we get to see that relationship in action. Even Lydia's totally cool with him, and it's implied she might still have feelings for him. I mean, the episode where Pepper Ann found her dad's old love letters with half the words cut out says it all, honestly. I can't believe they got away with that one. To bring up the show's writing, on top of being funny, it's also smart as a whip. Once it gets rolling, it doesn't let up, and every episode has some kind of great joke, exchange of dialogue, what have you. It doesn't talk down to anyone, and honestly, a lot of jokes flew over my head. There's quite a few references to real-world people and events, and that's always tripped me up a bit in shows. You know what I mean? They'll make legally distinct brands for food and technology, and then they'll name drop Robert De Niro in his latest movie. I'm never sure what they can and can't say, but I like when it's done here. It's like real life, where people talk about celebrities or movies, and you might know some, but there's bound to be a few you've never heard of before. Most people should get a good chunk of the references done here, and they do some fun things with them too, namely with guest stars. Mark Hamill and Alex Trebek had some standout appearances here, but that's all I'll say if you don't already know. Pepper Ann also dealt with a variety of topics and social issues, from the lighthearted to the serious. The show's geared to young girls and tweens and covers issues they might face in their everyday, but it's still a show anybody can watch, and you'll likely find something that relates to you personally. You know, after finishing this show, I started watching the 90s sitcom Dinosaurs, and these shows are cut from the same cloth, addressing real-world issues while still being weird and funny, and that's why I love them so much. You know, maybe I should talk about dinosaurs someday, who knows? But yeah, almost everything is on the table here. Subjects like divorce, death of a loved one, being a single working mother, what it really means to be a man or be a woman, the list goes on. But the episode I think everyone points to is Dances with Ignorance, when Pepper Ann learns she's 1/16th Navajo. It reminded me of that Family Guy episode where Peter learns of his black ancestry, except when Family Guy makes jokes about Peter's ignorance, well, you expect that. Pepper Ann doesn't care if it's a kid's show, it pulls no punches. When she finds out, she literally whoops it up and pulls out all the stereotypes you can think of. And then she decides to show off to a local Navajo family. The first time, heck, the second time I watched this, I legit cringed and said, "Girl, what are you doing?" But that's the whole point, and she realizes where she went wrong and gets the chance to redeem herself. The episode paired with this one, Girl Power, is another great one. Moose learns her favorite superhero is getting a cartoon, but is shocked to see they turned her into a girly girl. Like I said, the show has a number of life lessons for young girls, and while her mom and aunt are fighting for a positive role model, that's not what Moose was after at all. Eventually, she just goes, "I don't like Tundra Woman because she's a woman, I like her because she's selfless and inspiring, and that's all you need to be a hero." Moose was cool before, but this episode cemented her as one of my favorite characters. Never before had I seen subjects like these tackled in such a way from a show like this, and remember, this was done in 1999. Some people think kids shows only started tackling these themes seriously in the 2010s, but here's the perfect rebuttal. The term gets thrown around a lot, especially with this show, but it really was ahead of its time, and the messages still ring as strong as ever today. Even if you've heard them all before, a little refresher is nice to hear every now and then. Like in season 1 when they drop the evergreen, "Who cares what others think? You like what you do. That's all that matters." I've been preaching that forever, but it's nice to know Pepper Ann has my back, and to any content creators out there, that advice will save you a headache or two. What's great is none of these messages come off as preachy, and the show still makes it a primary goal to be entertaining. Pepper Ann has its cake and gets to eat it too. That's the mark of something special. And if I haven't made it clear, this show cracked me up so much. Smart jokes, dumb jokes, a bunch of adult jokes that made me do wicked double takes, and sometimes it takes advantage of the fact it's a cartoon and blindsides ya. There's the episode where Pepper Ann makes friends with a giant bully girl who's actually 9 years old, and when she takes care of a little issue for Pepper Ann, well, oh my goodness. And shout out to the background kid who shouts out everything he says. All I hear is Bobby from King of the Hill, and it kills me every time.
I am gathering signatures to have a statue of Patrick Swayze.
I also loved how each episode had a little gag at the end of the theme song where Pepper Ann finds something different under her desk. The finale uses the $5 gag, which was used in the first episode. Details like that show the love and care that was put into this. Part of me wishes I had caught this when I was a kid, and I never say that with TV shows or video games, but this is like the perfect show to grow up with. It made me nostalgic for my middle school days, which I hated for the most part, but there were some bright spots in there, and I realized I went through a lot of the same stuff these guys did, just with a lot less of that Pepper Ann finesse. That said, I'm glad I could watch it with the knowledge of what this show set out to do, and it's still an all-time favorite for me. If you want to check it out, it's on Disney+, but after all the crap that's been going on with streaming services in 2022, I don't trust anybody anymore. So I'll say go catch Pepper Ann while you can, and that's not just some cute reference to the theme song, I mean it. I'd pay good money for a snazzy DVD or Blu-ray of the series with commentaries, old promos, those 15-second bumpers that aired on UPN which are also partially lost to time. A guy can dream, can he? And even without a DVD, she still left her footprint in the Disney lineage. This fact gets tossed around like dirty laundry, but after the show ended, Pepper Ann and Lydia cameoed in the first episode of House of Mouse. I think that's the only time Disney TV characters stood with the big boys in one of their shows. It's It's like seeing a non-Nintendo element in Smash Bros. Pre-brawl. Don't touch the villain, dear. Yeah, you know. And if you're a fan of Amphibia, the show's creator Matt Braley is a huge Pepper Ann fan, even taking some design inspiration for the main character, who I'm just learning is named Ann, only with an E tacked on at the end. A legally distinct version of her also showed up in one of the show's last episodes, so I'm thinking I should check out Amphibia on that merit alone. Anywho, Pepper Ann is great, and I hope my ramblings did it justice, or at least got you interested in checking it out. No matter where you are in life, I feel like this show can speak to you in some way, and I hope you grow to love it as much as I did. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna email Disney again about if and when they'll put the NTSC version of Season 1 on Disney Plus before I die. No, I don't have a problem. You have a problem. Just go away and watch Pepper Ann, alright? You'll see it my way afterwards.
Here's my remote control.
Thanks for giving this video a watch, everybody. I really do appreciate it. If you enjoyed what you saw, feel free to give this video a like, share with a friend, subscribe, check out all my social media links, and if you'd like to support me a bit more directly, feel free to check out my Patreon page. There's stuff there like behind the scenes blogs, the chance to see videos before they go live for the public, so if that sounds like something up your alley, feel free to give it a look, and all the other stuff I always go on about. And tell me, if you're a fan of Pepper Ann, what's your favorite stuff about it? Favorite characters, favorite episode, the most relatable topic they tackled? Whatever the case, feel free to share them in the comments below. I'd love to read them. I'll catch you later, everybody, or as Pepper Ann might say it, I'll catch ya when I catch ya, muchachas. Yeah, that's probably how she'd say it.